Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another comparison video. So in the past when I've done little comparison videos, people have really enjoyed it, so I decided I would do another one today, but this one is going to be one with a bit of a difference. So I'm going to be comparing two models, two of the same class, from the same manufacturer, but from a different time, a different period of time. Get your head around that one. So the two I'm going to be looking at, of course, if you haven't worked it out already, is this. This is the old Hornby 2800 class. This is the original one. I think it must have been a very, very popular model because they produced this one for many years. So there you go, that's a look at that. And I'm going to be comparing it with this one, which is the latest version, the newest tooled version. As you can see, it's super detailed, obviously quite a bit more expensive, but clearly far superior in terms of detail. Now, the thing that actually shocked me about these two is the time difference between the two releases is not as much as you might think. So the old one here was actually first released in 1991, and then this modern version, which looks 100 times better, was only released in 2010, so that's less than 20 years on. So it's more than just a comparison between models today. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit of an insight into the changing times of the model railway industry to kind of demonstrate what we have now that we didn't 20 years ago, and perhaps even what we had 20 years ago that we've now lost. So hopefully it'll be interesting. But to start off with, let's take a good close look at these two models and have a look at the actual tangible differences between them. So the first major difference between the two models is no doubt the first one we all think of, and that is of course cab detail. Now, my old version here has had a couple of crew members put into the cab, but I don't think they were standard. The way this would have come is just with a pure blank cab, which is a stark contrast between what we've got on the 2010 model, where we have this beautifully painted cab. And that is pretty standard actually. Most models from the 1990s and before wouldn't have had painted cabs. And that is the first indication of the changing times. Back in the 1990s, it was fine just to buy a model that roughly resembled the prototype. But these days, when modelers buy a locomotive, absolute detail is paramount, and so those detailed cabs are a necessity. And basically any steam locomotive, any good steam locomotive that you buy today from Hornby or Bachmann will have a painted cab. Another good example of this is the smokebox door. The old 90s version has just an approximation of what the smokebox door should look like, but the modern version is much more realistic, and as you can tell there, yes, the dart there has been separately fitted, and once again it's very unusual to see just a moulded smokebox dart on any modern top of the range locomotives. So because of this huge demand for absolute accuracy and detail, the complexity of the models have been massively increased as well. And I suppose that also will have a big effect on the assembly of these models in the factory as well. So there is an awful lot of separately fitted work, for example, on this modern version. There's a lot more pipe work on this modern version. You've got these pipes here, are they for the sand or something like that? And also down below the cab. On the old version, the pipes underneath the cab have been completely missed off, which of course they would be slaughtered for these days if that was the case. And the pipes that come down underneath the boiler there are just clearly part of the moulding, which again is a massive step down in terms of complexity. Similarly, these boiler supports on the old version, can you see there? They are just part of the moulding. On the modern version, they are separately fitted and they're much more detailed. As you can see, there's lots of rivets on them there. So it's great in terms of realism, but of course, when mine arrived, you might remember that they were quite badly damaged and I had to repair them. That's not the case with the 90s version. I don't think I've ever had to make any changes to the bodywork on that at all. It's always been absolutely perfect. There's even little tiny details that you might have missed, including the glazed windows. Look, on the modern version, you've got proper glazing in the windows there. Not so on the old version, though they are just left blank, as you can see. And some models in the 90s and sort of before that would have had glazed windows, but a lot of them didn't. And a lot of the time, it seems that was just fine. You don't hear of many people complaining about that with these older models. And just take a look at the wheels. On this 90s version, you've got these gigantic metal tyres, which are quite conspicuous, aren't they? It's not really very easy to ignore those. And look at the rods as well, very, very thick linkage rods, of course very robust, but not all that realistic. And look, even the slide that comes out of the steam chest there is very clearly a plastic piece, which again is not really on the side of realism, is it? Now, looking at the modern version, those metal tyres are much more subtle. They're not that silvery colour anymore. They're very much dulled down. They're a lot smaller. The insides of the wheels were all reprofiled and they're a lot finer, and clearly all of the rods and things are much finer and thinner and more realistic, more to scale. And also the steam chest is much more realistic, and all of the slides slides there are completely made of metal. Once again, much more realistic, but clearly not quite as robust. You do hear of a lot of modern locos getting jammed linkage and things, which can sometimes happen if you're not absolutely careful with them. The old version is also a lot more basic in terms of the minute little details. So if you look underneath the boiler, you can see clearly that is just the chassis there. There's no interpretation of the valve gear, the internal valve gear or anything like that. This modern version has quite a lot of detail going on under there, which of course is a massive improvement, and certainly looking down on the model from above makes a huge difference there. Also, beyond the separately fitted details and things, the whole model just looks a lot more refined on the new version. If we take a look at the running board on the old version, you can see the splashes here are quite large. The running board is also quite basic. There's not a lot of detail going on there in terms of rivets. The new version, yeah, looks so much more refined. Just look at all of those rivets going on there. The splashes are a lot smaller and down to scale, presumably because they scanned the real thing with modern technology and managed to get everything spot on. And thanks to sort of computer-aided design programs, CAD programs, those little details can easily be added since the toolings are no longer handmade, and so things can be a lot more complex. The modern version also has a lack of standard parts, and the clear thing there is with the whistles. So if you look there, you've got quite finely moulded whistles which really match up with the model. The old version has these really sort of old-fashioned, quite chunky looking whistles which actually cropped up on a lot of the old models. I wonder if they were standard parts that were just fitted to lots of the models. It's quite interesting that, again, nobody seemed to bat an eyelid those in those days, but these days Hornby definitely couldn't just bung on their standard whistle design. I think they'd probably get lynched if they did that. There's also a massive difference between the two tenders as well. As you can see, the old version here is quite a tall tender, and that's because obviously there is a motor inside there. The old version is not loco driven, and obviously the motor units are quite tall, as I've said before, and so the coal unit is piled up quite high. That's not the case with the new version. The coal load is much more realistic. In fact, it slopes down into the tender, as would be the case in real life, and clearly the texture of the coal is much more realistic as well. It's also removable, which means that it's more customizable. Modelers can put their own coal in, which is basically demanded of manufacturers these days. I don't think they'd get away with without having removable coal these days. Also the handrails. Look at how chunky the handrails here at the front of the tender are on the old version. I mean, to see separately fitted details like that 20-30 years ago would be impressive. It's not been done on the back, interestingly. The back handrails there are just part of the moulding, but on the modern version the handrails are much more finely detailed, probably more fragile too, but much more up the street of modern modelers. And the ones at the back, as you can see clearly, are not just moulded on anymore. They're a lot more realistic. So there we go. There are some of the basic differences. Obviously, just looking at the models, you'll be able to see some more. But we'll get these down onto the track now, and we'll talk a little bit more about the differences in performance and their components. So as you might expect, when it comes down to the features, these two models are once again very different, as they are in basically every area. But not in the way you might expect, given what I've already said about realism being paramount, because actually the old 1990s version has a couple of features that the modern version doesn't. And what I'm talking about here is, first of all, the cab. As you can see here, the firebox in the cab, when you power the locomotive, actually lights up. It glows red, as you can see there. Quite a cool feature. Also, it had a smoke generator inside it, which again is a really cool feature. This smoke generator isn't in there anymore because, as you can see, it's melted the boiler very slightly, but there was a smoke generator in there, but it did work. Now, the modern version has nothing like that, which is really quite strange because, as I say, realism these days is absolutely paramount, so you'd think features like that would be a necessity. So why does the modern version not have features like that? Well, to be honest with you, the answer is I don't know. I don't have the exact reason. However, I can make a bit of a guess. Once again, I think it comes down to realism. So yes, the firebox glow in the 1990s version is very cool, but it isn't what you'd call realistic, because in real life a firebox does not look like that. Fires flicker, they're not necessarily red, there's a lot more going on than just a glow. So to replicate that on this modern version and make it look realistic would have cost an awful lot. And on top of all the other detail upgrades and things, that would have just made the model incredibly expensive. And because of that, I don't think most people would be willing to justify the cost. And the same thing goes with the smoke generator. It did sort of work, but there were messy things. Mine leaked all over the locomotive, it made a mess, it started to melt the boiler, and ultimately the smoke that came out of the chimney wasn't all that realistic. It was a steady stream, it wasn't a puffing effect like you get in real life. And so, as we've seen with the Dapol Black Label A4s, you can get really realistic smoke, but at a price. And with a standard Hornby range locomotive, they've got to sell quite a lot of them to make it justifiable. reliable. And so to actually get a realistic smoke generator in there would have cost an awful lot of money. So in some ways this desire for absolute detail has made a little bit of a negative impact. We don't get what we'd call gimmicks these days. The chuffing sound on the tender, which we used to get with the Triang locos a lot of the time, was reasonably effective and it did work very well, but something it wasn't was absolutely realistic, and so lo and behold we don't see that anymore, which is a little bit of a shame. So another huge difference between these two is the method in which they are motorised. As you know, this old version is motorised in the tender, as I've already said, and it actually, if I take the tender body off, let's see if I can do this. Oh, there we go. You can see that we have the Ringfield motor inside there. That is what is known as the Ringfield motor. And what was great about that from a manufacturing point of view is that Hornby could use it in every single loco, more or less every single loco they produced. So, I don't know, here we've got the Midland Compound. Lo and behold, we have the Ringfield motor. Here we have an A4, this is my Sir Nigel Gresley, you've got the Ringfield motor. The diesels even, here's a diesel. Inside there, what have you got? It's the same motor. So every time Hornby released a new model, they would not have to redesign a mechanism. They could just bung that motor into the tender or into one of the bogies of the diesel, and that would save them a lot of money. And of course the Ringfield design used all standard parts, so it was always very, very easy to fix one of those. These days Hornby have to stock parts for every different locomotive in the range, which all have different mechanisms. So even that is such an expensive process for them, and goodness knows how they keep it up. Well, they don't, to be honest with you. It's very, very difficult sometimes to find the parts you need. With the modern locomotives, once again, it isn't realistic to have the tender powering the thing. It means you can't get realistic wheel slip from the loco, and also because of the bulk of the mechanism, the tenders themselves couldn't be realistic because it was in there, and so it was moved into the locomotive. So yeah, once again, that has put the cost up, because these days when Hornby or whoever release a modern locomotive, the mechanism has to be designed to fit in that specific model, and it has to turn the specific number of wheels. That wasn't the case before. You could have any steamer run off the tender-driven machine. So again, that is a massive leap forward in terms of realism, but once again, that has put the cost of these models up quite considerably. And that leads us really on to the final thing, and that is practicality, which I'm not really sure is the right word. What I'm really trying to say now is, what are these models for? What is the purpose? This old 1990s version I don't think was intended to be a super realistic model. I think obviously realism would have been a big consideration with it, but I don't think that was the purpose. It's robust, it runs well, it's reliable, it's got the standard motor. You can give it to a kid, I'd wager, and it wouldn't fall to pieces. I think really it was supposed to bridge that gap between toys and adult models, and it sort of appeals to everybody in its relative realism but also relatively cheap cost. The modern version is very different to that. It's very much perfect for serious modelers. You know, I'm sure serious modelers would absolutely adore this thing, as indeed a lot of them do, but it's not really suitable for children anymore. So many tiny parts, so many minuscule details that are so easy to break off, and of course the cost means that, you know, come Christmas time, when parents are looking, you know, at either Hornby train sets, Hornby locomotives, or the latest video game, the cost is going to mean that kids are just going to get the video game, which is a massive shame, because these traditional sort of physical working toys are being used less and less by children and more for adults. Again, that is splendid for adult modelers. I suppose like me, I do get amazed sometimes at the detail, but it also means that the hobby no longer is one for the kids. And that's the sad thing, because we know that kids really, really enjoy this stuff. I mean, my YouTube channel gets millions of views every year, and I think a lot of that is down to kids. So kids do love these things, you know, kids love watching them go around the track, and I'm sure they'd love to handle them and play with them going around the track, but a lot of these models make that not possible. I suppose we should be very, very grateful to the Hornby Railroad range today, because that is kind of a bit of a throwback to models like this. They had very similar levels of detail and quite similar pricings as well, which I suppose is quite interesting. So anyway, hope that was interesting for you. I think what is to be done now is to get these two models running, and we will have a little bit of a run with them. I think it's about time we did that, isn't it? So, to be honest with you, when you see them like this, there's not an awful lot of difference, is there? If you set all of their differences aside in the detail, in the way they run, they do the same job. They entertain you, they bring joy, and if people enjoy them, you know, I don't think there's a lot else they could do. Ultimately, they are toys, aren't they? That is all they are. I know some people would have you believe otherwise, but ultimately, what can they do? They don't have a use. You can't use them to put food on your table. You can't use them to build yourself a house if you're homeless. They don't really have any other purpose other than to be enjoyed, to be played with, and to bring people joy. There are a lot of people out there, of course, that would try to tell you that they're more than that and that they mean more than that, but to me, they don't. And actually, that is why I love them so much. Very simply, they bring people joy, no matter how serious you are about them. That's all they do, and that's what's great about them. Anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. It's been great to have a good close look at these two and pick apart the differences. Let me know in the poll, which one do you prefer? If you could have one or the other, which one would it be? And let me know in the comments why. Thank you all for watching then, folks. I will see you all very soon. Cheers, everybody.